Katie Ginella joined Real Housewives of Orange County Season 18 as the fresh-faced newcomer with a compelling backstory that seemed tailor-made for Bravo Gold. A former professional golfer turned sports journalist turned entrepreneur, she's married to sports journalist Matt Ginella and has 4 children from 2 marriages. She made history as the first Asian American full-time cast member on RHOC, a milestone that should have been celebrated as groundbreaking representation for the franchise. But what started as a promising debut with Katie fearlessly taking on Heather Dubrow over paparazzi accusations quickly devolved into one of the most controversial and scandal-plagued freshman seasons in the show's history. Behind Katie's camera-ready smile, her perfectly coordinated outfits, and her carefully curated image as a hardworking mother and businesswoman lies a pattern of behavior so disturbing, so manipulative, and so calculated that even her closest allies turned against her by season's end. From a road rage incident that resulted in a wrongful arrest and a 6-figure judgment against her, to feeding information to anonymous bloggers while denying it on camera, to failing a polygraph test so spectacularly that she fled the show for weeks, Katie Ginella's dark side isn't just problematic for reality television drama, it's genuinely dangerous. And it's time someone exposed the full truth about who Katie Ginella really is when the cameras stop rolling. The first major red flag that should have warned viewers about Katie's character appeared during the Season 18 reunion when her castmates confronted her about a 2015 road rage incident that had legal consequences lasting nearly a decade and cost her over $100,000 in judgments. The story begins on the 12th of April 2015 when Katie was driving in Cobb County, Georgia, years before she ever appeared on reality television. According to court documents and police reports obtained by In Touch Weekly, a man named Sidney Silva was driving behind Katie on the highway when he noticed something genuinely alarming about the vehicle ahead of him. Katie was allegedly swerving all over the road in an erratic pattern, texting while driving with her phone clearly visible, and her children were completely unbuckled in the back seat without proper restraints. Sidney, a concerned citizen who was genuinely worried about the dangerous driving and the immediate safety of the children he could see bouncing around the vehicle, began recording the incident on his phone to document what he was witnessing. What happened next is where the story transforms from a concerned citizen trying to document dangerous behavior into something far more sinister and reveals Katie's true character when challenged or held accountable for her actions. Instead of pulling over when she realized someone was recording her dangerous driving or acknowledging her reckless behavior and correcting it, Katie allegedly followed Sidney to his home in what can only be described as an act of retaliation and intimidation. She tracked him to his residence, parked her vehicle directly behind his work van outside his house, exited her car, and according to the official police reports filed by responding officers, confronted Sidney aggressively on his own property. The responding officers' report, which is a matter of public record, specifically named Katie as the aggressor in the situation, a critical detail that completely contradicts the story Katie would later tell law enforcement. When Sidney, now frightened and confused about why this woman had followed him home and was confronting him at his residence, started recording the confrontation for his own protection and documentation, Katie made a calculated decision that would ruin an innocent man's life for years. She called the police and made completely false allegations against him, flipping the entire narrative to position herself as the victim rather than the aggressor the police report identified her as. Katie told authorities that Sidney had been harassing and videotaping her and her children without consent, that he was an aggressive and dangerous driver who had been following her and yelling threatening statements at her family, and that she feared for her safety and the safety of her children. Based solely on Katie's statements and her performance as a frightened mother, police arrested Sidney at his own home. But here's the fundamental problem with Katie's version of events that would eventually be exposed in court: absolutely none of it was true. Sidney was the one being followed to his home. He was the one being confronted on his own property. He was the one who felt threatened enough to record the interaction for his protection. The charges against Sidney were eventually dropped when the truth emerged. Sidney filed a civil lawsuit against Katie in March 2016, accusing her of deliberately making false statements to police that directly resulted in his wrongful arrest and the emotional distress that followed. The case dragged through the court system for years, racking up legal fees and emotional toll on both sides. and in the end, a judgment of $112,945 was entered against Katie Ginella. That's not a small claims settlement or a nuisance payment. That's a six-figure judgment awarded because a court determined that Katie's actions were so egregious, so harmful, and so intentionally false that she owed this man over $100,000 in damages. But the court documents tell an unambiguous story. The police report naming her as the aggressor tells an unambiguous story, and the massive six-figure judgment against her tells an unambiguous story that completely contradicts Katie's attempts to rewrite history. Sidney recently spoke to In Touch magazine about the incident years later, and his account remains chilling and consistent. He maintains that Katie was swerving dangerously across multiple lanes, clearly texting behind the wheel while distracted, and actively endangering her unbuckled children who were visible in the back seat. The fact that a court awarded him over $100,000 in damages strongly suggests they found his version of events far more credible and truthful than Katie's carefully constructed lies. This isn't just a housewife being dramatic or exaggerating for television cameras. This is a woman who allegedly weaponized law enforcement against a completely innocent person and demonstrated she's willing to destroy someone's life rather than admit fault or accept consequences for her dangerous actions. The next major scandal that exposed Katie's manipulative tendencies involved her relationship with a Bravo blogger named Christina Huber, who operates under the anonymous handle The Bravo Babe on social media platforms. The Bravo Babe had been at the center of dramatic confrontations with Tamra Judge during the previous season, with Tamra threatening legal action over alleged harassment campaigns and coordinated attacks on her reputation. When season 19 began filming in early 2024, the RHOC cast members discovered through various sources that Katie might have an inappropriate and undisclosed relationship with this controversial blogger, potentially feeding her insider information, manipulating storylines behind the scenes, and using the anonymous platform to attack her castmates while maintaining complete plausible deniability in front of cameras. During active filming of season 19, Katie was directly confronted by multiple cast members about her interactions and communications with the Bravo Babe. She denied everything adamantly on camera, looking directly into the eyes of women she called friends, and insisting she had absolutely no relationship with the anonymous account, had never communicated with Christina, and was being falsely accused of something she would never do. But then the receipts started dropping publicly on social media, and Katie's carefully constructed lies began to unravel in real time. Screenshots emerged, showing direct message conversations between Katie and Christina discussing cast members, storylines, and strategy. Photos surfaced of Katie and Christina meeting in person at various Los Angeles locations, proving their relationship extended beyond online interactions. This is where Katie's manipulation becomes truly calculated and reveals her strategic thinking about how to control narratives. By working secretly with an anonymous gossip account that had significant follower influence, she could plant negative stories about her castmates, stir up fan drama and online harassment campaigns, shape public opinion to favor her side of conflicts, have day, and manipulate which storylines gained traction, all without being directly accountable for any of it. When confronted by castmates or producers, she'd simply deny everything convincingly and force the other person to somehow prove their unprovable claims about anonymous online activity. It's cowardly behavior. It's profoundly manipulative, and it's exactly the kind of behind-the-scenes scheming that permanently destroys trust among cast members and makes authentic relationships impossible. The Bravo Babe drama set the stage for what would become Katie's most infamous and career-defining moment on RHOC, the polygraph test disaster that would effectively end her season and alienate every single cast member. During season 19 filming, Katie became deeply embroiled in serious allegations involving longtime cast member Tamra Judge and former housewife Gretchen Rossi. According to Katie's version of events, during a triple-date dinner with her husband Matt Ginella, Jennifer Padranti and her fiancé Ryan Boyajian, and Gretchen Rossi with her longtime partner Slade Smiley, Gretchen made extremely damaging allegations about Tamra Judge's past behavior and character. Katie claims Gretchen told the entire group something so explosive and shocking about Tamra that it had the potential to become a central storyline for the entire season. But there was one massive problem with Katie's allegations. Jennifer Pedranti and Ryan Boyajian both adamantly denied hearing any such conversation at the dinner. Gretchen Rossi completely denied making any allegations whatsoever about Tamra, and Katie found herself accused of fabricating the entire story to create drama, insert herself into a major storyline, and secure her position on the show by any means necessary. To settle the explosive matter and determine who was telling the truth, Emily Simpson organized a polygraph test to be administered at her Persian New Year celebration party, with cameras rolling to capture the results. Katie confidently agreed to take the test, appearing certain she'd be completely vindicated and that everyone would be forced to apologize for doubting her version of events. What happened instead was a complete and utter disaster that would define her entire season. Katie was asked multiple specific questions by a professional polygraph examiner. Did Gretchen Rossi tell you damaging allegations about Tamra Judge at the triple date dinner? Did you secretly record Shannon Beador without Shannon's knowledge or consent during private conversations? Did you communicate with and feed information to the Bravo babe while denying it? Katie failed every single question on the test. The polygraph examiner, a professional with years of experience, declared that Katie's answers showed clear signs of deception across the board on every single question asked. Katie was visibly stunned and emotional, insisting repeatedly that the test must be malfunctioning or improperly calibrated, that she'd told the truth wholeheartedly about everything, but the damage was catastrophically done and irreversible. The other women at the party, including Heather Dubrow, Gina Kirschenheiter, Emily Simpson, and Jennifer Pedranti, who had been Katie's closest friend, didn't believe her denials anymore. Emily Simpson, as the party host, asked Katie to leave immediately. Outside on the sidewalk, still wearing her microphone and with cameras following her, Katie made the unusual decision to break the fourth wall and have an intensely emotional conversation directly with producers about what was happening. She was crying uncontrollably, insisting she hadn't lied about anything, saying that Jen was sitting right there at that dinner and heard everything exactly the same way she did, so why was she being singled out? She felt caught between two impossible choices: lying to protect Gretchen from consequences, or telling the truth and being labeled a liar and troublemaker. In her tearful confessional interview that was clearly filmed immediately after the party disaster, Katie said, with resignation, that no one is going to believe me anymore, but I can lay my head down at night, knowing in my heart I told the truth about everything. She accurately predicted that this might be the last time anyone sees me with this group of women for a very long time, and she was absolutely right about that prediction. According to multiple sources close to production, Katie's appearance at Emily's party marked her last filmed appearance with the main group for several weeks of production. The rest of the cast wanted absolutely nothing to do with her after the failed polygraph. She was essentially put on pause by both cast and producers, removed from all group events and major storylines, and isolated until much later in the season when reunion filming required her presence. On the after-show interview segments, Katie tried desperately to explain what went catastrophically wrong with the polygraph test and why the results were inaccurate. She revealed she'd been experiencing an intense and overwhelming anxiety attack before arriving at Emily's house that day. She'd completely forgotten to take her prescribed anti-anxiety medication that morning and had assumed she'd be fine managing the party without it. But the anxiety made her physically ill upon arrival. She admitted to literally vomiting when she first got to Emily's house. She felt what she described as daggers shooting at her from Shannon Beador across the room. The stress and anxiety were so overwhelming that Katie genuinely believes that panic response caused the polygraph machine to incorrectly read her as deceptive, even though she was telling the complete truth. But here's the fundamental problem with Katie's anxiety explanation that doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Polygraph tests are specifically designed and carefully calibrated to detect stress responses associated with lying, but they're also calibrated by trained examiners to differentiate between general nervousness about being tested and specific anxiety about lying regarding particular questions. The fallout from the polygraph disaster completely destroyed Katie's closest and most important friendship on the show. Jennifer Pedranti, who had been Katie's absolute best friend, daily texting companion, and emotional support system, completely cut her off without any possibility of reconciliation. Katie revealed in interviews that she and Jen used to wake up every single morning at 7 a.m. and talk on the phone while still lying in bed, sharing everything about their lives. They were inseparable both on and off camera. But after Katie implied repeatedly on camera that Jen had definitely heard the Gretchen allegations at the dinner and was deliberately lying about it to protect herself from being dragged into drama, Jen reached her absolute limit. At their final coffee meetup shown in episode 9, Jen made it devastatingly clear that their friendship was probably over forever. Katie was absolutely devastated by the loss, saying in interviews that she cried every single day for weeks and missed Jen desperately. She insisted she could personally move past what she viewed as Jen's betrayal because she cared about their friendship so deeply. Katie admitted candidly on the after show that she'd learned an extremely painful lesson about trust and relationships. She said, "I trusted way too many people too quickly," describing herself as an oversharer who naturally trusts everybody she meets until they prove otherwise. But that's not actually what happened to Katie during her time on RHOC. Katie didn't trust the wrong people and get burned. She actively manipulated people and got caught. She fed confidential information to bloggers while convincingly denying it to their faces. She made serious allegations about Gretchen and then spectacularly failed a polygraph when questioned under pressure. She allegedly weaponized law enforcement against an innocent man in a road rage incident. These aren't the innocent actions of someone who's simply too trusting and naive. But Katie's legal troubles and questionable behavior extend far beyond just the RHOC drama. Her first marriage to Andrew Sunseth ended in an absolutely brutal divorce in 2016 that involved shocking allegations from both sides. Initially, Andrew was awarded primary physical and legal custody of their 3 children, Kylie, Gavin, and Maxon, while Katie received only visitation rights. In 2018, Katie filed a petition attempting to strip Andrew of custody, alleging he was emotionally abusing their children by calling the boys bastards and idiots, calling their teenage daughter a bitch and disgrace, and leaving young children home alone unsupervised for hours. Andrew fired back with his own shocking allegations, claiming Katie had forged his signature on student loan applications without his knowledge, hadn't been paying court-ordered child support consistently, and was violating their custody agreement repeatedly. The battle raged for years until March 2019, when they reached a modified agreement where Katie got custody of Kaylee and Andrew kept the boys, with child support obligations finally terminated. The case was ultimately dismissed in 2023. As season 19 progresses toward its highly anticipated reunion, Katie faces an extremely uncertain future with RHOC and Bravo. She's alienated nearly every cast member except possibly Alexis Bellino. She's facing that 6-figure judgment from the wrongful arrest lawsuit. She's been publicly exposed for communicating with gossip bloggers. She failed a televised polygraph. She lost her best friend. She was ostracized for weeks. And she was targeted with genuinely racist attacks from castmates. The dark side of Katie Ginella isn't about one single scandal or one isolated bad decision. It's a comprehensive pattern of manipulative behavior, of weaponizing systems like law enforcement and media to punish people who dare cross her, of lying when directly confronted and playing the victim when caught. Whether Katie returns for season 20 remains unknown. But one thing is absolutely certain: the dark side of Katie Ginella has been fully exposed.